24 years. That's how long I've been treating cancer patients. I've watched people celebrate miracles, and I've watched families say heartbreaking goodbyes. But one patient changed the way that I looked at hope forever. Every test said he was running out of time. Every specialist agreed there was almost nothing left to do. Yet what happened next is something I'll never forget. I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and this is the patient everyone had given up on. It was a cold Monday morning in November. The oncology department was quieter than usual. Outside my office window, snow had just begun falling over downtown Chicago. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee when my nurse placed a thick medical file on my desk. "Your next patient is ready, doctor." I looked down at the name printed across the front, Michael Anderson. I had no idea that opening that file would become one of the most unforgettable moments of my entire career. The moment I opened Michael's file, I immediately understood why every doctor before me had lost hope. Michael Anderson, 68 years old, retired high school history teacher, married, 2 daughters, 3 grandchildren. Then I opened his scan reports. Stage IV pancreatic cancer. The disease had already spread to his liver. The room suddenly felt heavier. Multiple specialists had reviewed his case before it reached my office. Every report reached nearly the same conclusion. Treatment could slow the disease for a while, but there was no realistic cure. I closed the file for a moment. No matter how many years you've practiced medicine, those conversations never become easier. A few seconds later, there was a gentle knock. "Come in." The door slowly opened. Michael stepped inside with his wife beside him. He wasn't what I expected. Most people arriving with news like this looked frightened, broken, sometimes angry. Michael wasn't smiling, but he wasn't defeated either. He walked toward my desk with calm, steady steps. His wife quietly held his hand. I stood up and greeted them. "I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell." Michael smiled politely. "It's nice to meet you, doctor." His voice was calm, too calm, almost peaceful. After a few minutes of introductions, we all sat down. I opened his file once again. For a brief moment, nobody spoke. Sometimes silence says more than words ever can. I finally looked into Michael's eyes. "I've carefully reviewed every one of your test results." He slowly nodded. "I figured you had." I continued carefully. "The cancer is advanced. It has spread beyond the pancreas. We do have treatment options, but I also want to be honest with you. The goal of treatment is to slow the disease, reduce symptoms, and hopefully give you more meaningful time." The room became completely silent. His wife lowered her eyes. Her fingers tightened around his hand. Michael simply asked one question. "How much time do you honestly think I have?" I've answered that question hundreds of times, and I still hate answering it. I took a slow breath. Every patient is different, but based on everything we know today, perhaps 6 months. No one cried. No one shouted. Michael simply leaned back in his chair. He looked out the office window for several long seconds. Then he turned back toward me and said something I have never forgotten. "6 months is a prediction, doctor. It isn't a promise." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I had heard denial. I had heard anger. I had heard bargaining, but I had never heard quiet determination spoken with such peace. He wasn't pretending he wasn't sick. He wasn't refusing treatment. He simply refused to let statistics become the final chapter of his life. That was the day I met the patient everyone believed was running out of time, except the man living it. 3 days later, Michael returned to the hospital to begin treatment. He arrived almost 40 minutes early. That alone caught my attention. Most patients spent those extra minutes pacing the waiting room or silently staring at the floor, trying to gather enough courage to face another difficult day. Michael did something entirely different. He walked through the oncology lounge, greeting everyone he passed. The receptionist, the volunteer handing out coffee, even the elderly man sitting alone near the entrance. Within minutes, people who had never met him were smiling. One of our nurses leaned toward me and whispered, "I've never seen a first-time patient make everyone else feel less nervous." I looked across the room. She was right. When Michael noticed me, he stood and gave a small wave. "Good morning, doctor." "Good morning, Michael." "Ready to get started?" He smiled. "I didn't come here to waste time." A few minutes later, we reviewed the treatment plan together. I explained each medication, how it worked, the side effects we might expect, and the importance of reporting every new symptom immediately. He listened carefully, never interrupting. When I finished, he asked questions that surprised me. Not, "How sick will I become?" or "Will I lose my hair?" Instead, he asked, "Will I still be able to walk every morning?" "I'd like to continue if possible." I nodded. "Yes, as long as your strength allows it." He smiled. "Good. My wife would miss our walks more than I would." His wife laughed softly from across the room. For just a second, the word cancer seemed to disappear. Treatment began. Clear medication slowly flowed through the IV tubing. Hours passed quietly. Michael spent most of that time talking with the nurses, learning their names, asking about their families, thanking each one before they left his chair. Late that afternoon, I stopped by before going home. How are you feeling? He looked down at the IV pump. I've had easier days. Then he looked back at me. But I've also had harder ones. Over the following week, we saw each other often. Some days were encouraging, others were not. That answer stayed with me. Over the following weeks, we saw each other often. Some days were encouraging, others were not. His appetite became unpredictable. Fatigue slowly settled into his body. Blood tests occasionally forced us to delay treatment. Every setback reminded us how serious the disease truly was. Yet something unusual began happening inside the oncology department. Michael became impossible to ignore. He remembered birthdays. He thanked every member of the cleaning staff. He learned the names of patients sitting beside him during chemotherapy. Some arrived frightened. By the end of their treatment, many were laughing with him. One morning, I stepped into the infusion unit earlier than usual. I found Michael teaching an 8-year-old boy a simple card trick. The child had been crying only minutes before. Now, he couldn't stop laughing. His mother quietly wiped tears from her face. Medicine measured progress with numbers, tumor markers, scan reports, laboratory results. Michael measured life differently, by family dinners, phone calls from his daughters, Saturday mornings with his grandchildren. One afternoon, his wife stopped me in the hallway. "Doctor, there is something you should know." I could hear the emotion in her voice. "What is it?" She smiled through tired eyes. "Since the diagnosis. He writes in a journal every single night." I asked him why. He told me, "If tomorrow never comes, I want my family to know I noticed every beautiful moment that today gave me." I've read thousands of medical records, but no textbook had ever taught me that. I've signed countless treatment plans, but no textbook had ever taught me that. Several days later, the first follow-up CT scan finally arrived. Every member of my team hoped for good news. I opened the images, carefully comparing them with the original scans. The room became completely silent. The tumors had not disappeared, but they had not grown either. For many people, that might not sound important. For someone facing stage V pancreatic cancer, it was enough to keep fighting. I called Michael into my office that afternoon. He sat across from me, waiting patiently. I placed the scans on the desk. "The treatment is doing what we hope. The cancer appears stable." His wife closed her eyes with relief. Michael simply nodded. Then he asked, "So, we keep going?" I smiled. "Yes, we keep going." He stood, shook my hand, and thanked every person he passed on his way out of the office. I watched him disappear down the hallway. For reasons I couldn't fully explain, I had the feeling his story was still far from over. I just didn't realize. The greatest challenge was waiting for us around the next corner. The very next morning, everything changed. Michael never arrived for his scheduled appointment. His chair remained empty. My nurse looked at me with concern. Then the phone rang. Before I tell you what happened after that phone call, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that truly matter. I answered immediately. The voice on the other end was trembling. "Doctor, it's Michael. My husband collapsed early this morning. They're taking him to the emergency room now." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Only yesterday, he had walked out of my office with hope in his eyes. Now, everything we had fought so hard for suddenly felt uncertain again. I rushed to the emergency department. The moment I walked through the doors, I knew something was terribly wrong. Doctors and nurses were already surrounding Michael's bed. The cardiac monitor echoed through the room. His wife stood silently in the corner, holding his hand, whispering, "Please don't leave us." I walked quietly to his bedside. His eyes slowly opened. He looked at me and managed a faint smile. "Doctor, I told you, we keep going." Even in that moment, he wasn't thinking about giving up. He was thinking about one more chance to go home and see his family again. The next 48 hours were the longest of my career. Every hour, we watched the monitors. Every new test brought another difficult decision. Then, something incredible happened. Michael's condition began to stabilize. One small improvement became another. For the first time in days, hope returned to the room. A week later, Michael walked back into my office. A little weaker, a little thinner, but smiling. He reached into his jacket and placed his journal on my desk. "Doctor, I want you to read the last page." I opened it slowly, not knowing those words would stay with me forever. The final page read, "Life isn't measured by how many days we are given. It's measured by how deeply we love, how kindly we live, and how grateful we remain for every sunrise." I slowly closed the journal, looked up at Michael, and realized he had become far more than my patient. He had become my teacher. Today, people often ask me, what was the greatest lesson you learned after 24 years of treating cancer patients? My answer has never changed. Hope is not found in perfect scan results. It is found in the courage to keep living, even when tomorrow is uncertain. And every time I see a sunrise, I remember Michael Anderson, patient everyone had given up on, who reminded us all how to truly live. Months later, I received a handwritten letter from Michael. It wasn't about medicine. It wasn't about cancer. It simply said, "Thank you for never treating me like a diagnosis. You reminded me that I was still a father, a grandfather, and above all, still alive. I folded the letter and placed it inside my desk drawer, not because I wanted to hide it, but because I wanted to protect it. Whenever a patient loses hope, I read Michael's words again. They remind me that medicine can treat disease, but hope can change the way we live. And sometimes, that makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to Michael's story. As I locked my office that evening, I looked back at the empty chair where Michael had once sat. It reminded me that every patient leaves something behind. Some leave medical records, some leave memories, but a very rare few leave wisdom that stays with you for the rest of your life. Michael Anderson was one of them. If Michael's story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need a little hope today. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next story.